Wilmington looks like an easy yes on paper. You have the coast, the riverfront, beaches, and the kind of lifestyle that a lot of people are really looking for. And here's what I want you to know up front. This is not a place where you want to learn the hard lessons after you close on a home, because the most expensive surprises have nothing to do with the house itself. So in this video, I'm breaking down why the biggest cost surprises here usually come from risk and coverage, not the home price itself, which day-to-day realities affect your quality of life the most, and how to pick the right pocket first so the home you buy actually meets the lifestyle you're moving for. Hi, I'm Kimberly Crouch. I help people relocate all across the greater Wilmington area and our surrounding beach communities. I'm big on understanding trade-offs up front so you can make a low-regret move. Fact number 1. Flooding, tidal water, and storm surge reality. Wilmington flooding is not just a hurricane story. New Hanover County has a dedicated floodplain management program and points residents directly to official maps and resources, which tells you right away this is a real planning and cost factor, not just something to casually look at. Along the coast, you can get high tide flooding on completely sunny days. At the same time, you can have heavy rain flooding further inland that's more about drainage paths, low spots, and how saturated the ground is. So two streets that look similar on a map can live completely differently during the same storm. This is why two homes at the same price can feel totally different in real life. Elevation, where water naturally wants to flow, and even how you get in and out of a neighborhood can change what happens during a big rain event. Flood risk affects more than whether water gets in the yard. It can affect your drive routes, how often you're dealing with nuisance flooding, and how usable the neighborhood feels during storm weeks. And it changes the financial picture. Flood exposure can drive insurance requirements and your true monthly payment, which is why you verify risk before you fall in love with that floor plan. The practical move, when you're narrowing down to a specific pocket, check the flood map for the exact address, then find out how that street actually behaves when water's up. Do that before you write an offer. Bottom line, in Wilmington, you don't shop by city name or even by neighborhood name. You shop by micro-location and water behavior. And water behavior first, then lifestyle, then the house. Fact number 2, insurance and the true monthly payment. Once you understand flood risk at the street level, the next thing that surprises most relocators is the monthly payment, because insurance structure can change the math fast, even when the home price looks totally reasonable to you. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear from people moving here is that their homeowner's policy has them covered for flood. It doesn't. Standard homeowners insurance, what we also call hazard insurance, covers things like fire, theft, lightning, and pipe bursts. It's essential, but it doesn't cover wind, hail, or flood damage. And those are the big ones on the coast. Flood insurance is a separate policy, which means your true monthly cost can be very different from what a basic mortgage calculator is showing you. In Wilmington and the beach adjacent areas, you also need to understand how your policy handles wind and hail. Many coastal counties, including New Hanover, Brunswick, and Pender, fall outside the wind coverage limits of most national carriers. That often means going through the NCJUA or NCIUA, the North Carolina Joint Underwriting Association, and the North Carolina Insurance Underwriting Association. I always recommend getting quotes from both because the pricing and coverage can vary more than you would expect, and the right answer depends on the specific property. There are some that aren't covered by the NFIP, so private insurance may be the only option. Then there is the named storm deductible. In coastal areas, almost all companies have a mandatory minimum named storm deductible of at least 1% of your insured home value. Some mandate 2% or even 5%. So if a hurricane damages your roof, your out-of-pocket costs could be thousands more than your standard deductible. And this is something that often goes unnoticed if you're not specifically looking for it. One more thing on named storms. Insurance companies stop issuing or updating policies once a storm is officially named and enters a certain range of the coastline. That's called a moratorium, which means if you're under contract and trying to bind coverage at the last minute, you could be out of luck until the storm passes, and that could delay your closing date. Get your wind and flood insurance locked in early, especially during hurricane season. And flood insurance has a mandatory 30-day waiting period before it takes effect, unless it's mandated at closing by your mortgage company. So another reason not to wait. The practical move, price insurance early, before you're emotionally attached to a specific house. Get real quotes for the exact address. Ask specifically what's covered, what your named storm deductible is, whether wind and hail is included or separate, and what you're actually responsible for out of pocket in a claim. One more note, I'm not a licensed insurance agent, so make sure you double check all of this information for your specific situation and address with a licensed insurance agent. Fact number 3, bridges, traffic, and bottleneck communities. Once you have the monthly payment picture dialed in, the next thing that surprises people is day-to-day logistics, because Wilmington is a city where your commute is really about choke points and crossings, not just miles on a map. It's a growing city with growing infrastructure. Wilmington is a river city and a beach city, which means a few specific corridors quietly control your weekday. The Cape Fear Memorial Bridge is the most significant example. The North Carolina Department of Transportation is actively planning a replacement for that bridge. Projects like this reshape traffic patterns for years, not just weeks. And there's a more recent development worth knowing about. A private company has submitted a proposal to design, build, and operate a $1 billion replacement as a toll bridge. The Wilmington Metropolitan Planning Organization has indicated it will give written consent to NCDOT to move forward with an assessment of that proposal. That's a story still developing, but if you're evaluating anything on the Brunswick County side of that crossing, it's worth keeping an eye on. The practical move, test your actual commute at the times you'd realistically be doing it, morning and afternoon, and make sure you're driving the crossing you'd use most. That's where people get surprised. I helped a buyer purchase a new home in Brunswick County recently, and one of his big factors was commuting from the Leland area to Wilmington 5 days a week. He wound up choosing a beautiful new construction neighborhood just north of Leland with faster access to his place of work via I-140. Your situation might be different. It's just important to think about it and make the best choice for you. Fact number 4, property taxes. Probably better than where you're coming from, but you should check. Now that the community is accounted for, let's talk about the actual cost stack. And I want to lead with some good news here, because compared to most of the markets our relocators are moving from, the cost of living in Wilmington is genuinely lower on several of these line items. New Hanover County's adopted 2025 budget sets the property tax rate at 29.5 cents per $100 of assessed value. If you live within the Wilmington city limits, there is an additional tax of 25.25 cents per $100 of assessed value if you're inside Wilmington City, which gets revalued every 4 years. If you're relocating from a higher cost of living metro, that number is probably a lot lower than what you've been paying. Just remember to double check these rates as they are subject to change. And you want to compare them to where you're coming from. North Carolina also collects vehicle property tax through what's called the Tag and Tax Together system. You pay your vehicle property tax at the same time you renew your registration, which is annually. It catches some transplants off guard the first time because they didn't have it back home, but the amounts are generally manageable. The practical move, build your budget from the full ownership cost, not just the mortgage payment. That means property tax, insurance, all insurance, any HOA or condo fees, and vehicle tax for your household. Run those numbers for the specific address you're considering, and in most cases, you'll find Wilmington stacks up really well. But double check it, compare it to what you're currently paying so there's no surprises once you get here. Back to number 5, utilities. Know the numbers, but don't lose sleep over it. Similar story with utilities. Our cost of living here is generally lower than what most relocators are used to, but it's still worth knowing the real numbers rather than just assuming. The Cape Fear Public Utility Authority, or CFPUA, is the primary water and sewer provider for the area. Their fiscal year 26 budget included a rate increase that brought the average residential combined water and sewer bill up by about $5.12 a month starting July 1st. Over the past few years, they've had increases of 8.46% in 2023, 4.6% in both 2024 and 2025, and 6.85% in the fiscal year 2026 budget. Rates have been moving, so you want to know current numbers, not assume they're the same as a few years ago. The point is to stop guessing and price the reality. The practical move, when you're serious about a home, ask for recent utility billing ranges and confirm current rates, especially if you're comparing older homes, larger lots, or properties with irrigation systems, because those can look very different on the utility side. And also make sure you understand the water and sewer provider. There are some areas in New Hanover County that CFPUA does not cover, and they will be on well water and or septic. And there are some properties that are connected to CFPUA that still have a well on property that can be used for irrigation to keep your costs down. Fact number 6, schools are address specific. Don't assume. Once you have ownership costs locked in, if schools are a factor for your household, this one is simple but really important. School assignments here are tied to the exact address, not the neighborhood name, and not always what a listing says. The clean starting point is always the district's official school locator. Run the specific address through it, not the zip code, not the neighborhood name, the actual street address. I've seen buyers fall in love with a neighborhood and assume the school assignment matched what they'd searched, only to find out that they were on the wrong side of a boundary line. It's an easy thing to check early, so check it early. And if a magnet program or specialty option matters to your family, confirm that directly with the district. The practical move, run every shortlist address through the official school locator before you schedule showings. School attendance zones can be withdrawn. You just want to make sure you have current information. Fact number 7, short-term rentals and how they shape neighborhood feel. Even when schools check out to what you expected, the next thing that changes how a street actually feels year-round is turnover. And in coastal markets, that often means short-term rentals. Here's where things stand in Wilmington right now. Due to a 2022 court decision, the City of Wilmington no longer requires registration for short-term rentals or enforces the cap and separation requirements that were previously in its short-term lodging ordinance. What that means practically is that short-term rental concentration can affect parking, noise levels, and how stable a street feels. The smart move isn't guessing. If you're looking in an area where short-term rental activity is common, ask about the rental presence in that specific block and check the applicable rules for that jurisdiction. HOA or condo rules can actually be stricter than city rules, so those really matter too. This is as much a lifestyle compatibility issue as a regulation issue. Some buyers want that energy, some don't. Just know what you're buying into before you close. And if you're looking for a short-term rental, definitely check the local ordinances and check the HOA rules. The HOA rules are what usually will drive that. Fact number 8, hurricane reality and evacuation planning, storm planning. And I want to be straightforward about this. I'm not saying it to alarm you, because I live 1 mile from Wrightsville Beach and I absolutely love it here. I'm saying it because having your plan in place before you need it is just part of coastal ownership. And it's genuinely not a big deal when you've thought through it in advance, in most circumstances. North Carolina uses a Know Your Zone system, a tiered evacuation framework that identifies areas most vulnerable to hurricane and tropical storm impacts. There's an interactive lookup tool on the North Carolina Department of Public Safety website where you can enter any address and see its evacuation zone. It's worth checking for any home you're seriously considering. Ready NC recommends having a kit with enough water, food, and supplies for 3 to 7 days per person and per pet. Because after a major storm, you could be on your own for a stretch before things normalize if you don't evacuate. Here's some personal context. I've lived here since 2020, and I have not been asked to evacuate during that time. The last major hurricane to directly impact our area was Hurricane Florence in 2018. Storms happen, this is the coast, but the constant threat people sometimes imagine before they move here doesn't match the day-to-day reality. At least that has not been my experience, and I've been in Wilmington since 2020, but I've been on the North Carolina coast within a mile of the beach since 2010. The practical move, know your zone, know your route, have your kit stocked before hurricane season, and then don't think about it again until next year. Fact number 9, termites, moisture, and crawl space reality. Once you expect that storm planning is just part of the lifestyle, the next thing most relocators underestimate is what humidity and pests and salt water and air do over time, because moisture management here is real and it matters. North Carolina is eastern subterranean termite country. These are voracious structural pests that attack the wood and cellulose-based components of a structure. And if they go undetected, they can cause thousands of dollars in damage or more. If you own residential property in North Carolina, you will almost certainly cross paths with them at some point. The question is whether you have a plan in place to mitigate for them. The other piece of this is crawl space moisture. Coastal humidity accelerates wood deterioration and creates exactly the conditions termites love. Many homes here have had their crawl spaces encapsulated, meaning a vapor barrier system has been installed to control moisture, sometimes with a dehumidifier and even a sump pump. I have personally seen homes without any crawl-space mitigation need floor joist repairs that ran between $10,000 and $25,000 or more. It's not glamorous, but it's where long-term costs show up. Now, a lot of homes here already have what's called a termite bond. A termite bond is an annual service contract between the homeowner and a licensed pest control company. The company inspects the property on a set schedule and applies preventive maintenance to keep termites at bay. In the Wilmington area, annual bonds typically run around $750 per year, depending on the size of the home and the company. There are two types of bonds, and the difference matters a lot. A repair and retreat bond means that if termites damage the home while it's under bond, the company not only treats it, they also cover the cost of repairs. A retreat-only bond means the company will treat but won't cover repair costs. Those are very different in terms of your actual protection. If a home you're looking at doesn't already have a bond, you can get one. Initial treatment, if needed, typically runs $500 to $1,500 depending on the situation, and then the annual bond fee on top of that going forward. Budget for it as a line item in your ongoing ownership costs. Prioritize thorough inspections that look hard at crawl space moisture, wood to soil contact, and termite history or treatment documentation. Ask what type of bond is in place, repair and retreat, or retreat only. And of course, I always recommend a wood destroying insect inspection. Fact number 10, salt air, corrosion, and coastal maintenance. And the last thing people underestimate is what salt air and wind-driven moisture do to a house over time, because it changes maintenance cycles and changes what you should be paying attention to during inspections. When I'm showing oceanfront or close to waterfront homes, rusted bolts on decking are extremely common. The combination of salt on the surface and the high humidity we have here accelerates corrosion, especially if the home isn't built or maintained with coastal conditions in mind. When I'm walking a buyer through a waterfront or beach adjacent home, I'm automatically paying attention to the roof, exterior penetrations, windows, fasteners, and HVAC placement. These are the places where deferred maintenance shows up fast in a coastal environment. The practical move: when you're shopping closer to the water or in wind-exposed pockets, budget for proactive maintenance, not just repairs. Now that you know the 10 biggest things that affect cost and quality of life here, the strategy is straightforward. Pick your pocket first, then pick the house, and make sure the numbers and the risk profile actually match the lifestyle that you want day to day. If you're thinking about moving to Wilmington or one of the surrounding beach communities, and you want help mapping out the right pocket based on flood risk, insurance structure, commute lanes, and what your daily life actually looks like here, use the link in the description to schedule a call. We'll work through it together before you buy in the wrong area, which I don't want to happen. The goal is to help you buy in the right place for you, for the right reasons, with your eyes wide open. My job is to make sure you have all of that information before you commit, so you can move forward with clarity and confidence as you pursue your dream coastal lifestyle. If this video helped you think about Wilmington differently, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what else you want me to break down. I'm Kimberly Crouch with eXp Realty, offering you authentic coastal luxury at every price point.